Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash, Season 4, and this is going to be my review for Episode 13, otherwise entitled True Colours. But of course, before we get into the rest of the video, if you have not watched the episode, be sure to go watch it before continuing on with this video, because, yep, spoilers, we're going to be talking about some big things. And some pretty big things happen in this episode, so go watch it, then come back to this video later on. But if you are continuing on because you've watched the episode, be sure to drop a like on the video to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below what was your favourite part of the episode, what was your maybe least favourite part of the episode. And of course, if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, last episode was basically a big filler episode. We did have some stuff with Barry for the most part, which was, the non-filler part of the episode, I guess, but everything else was filler. But with Barry last episode, we saw him help Big Sur out, get him out of jail. But because of that, it led to Warden Wolf, capturing him in the act of being the Flash, and it led to him getting put in the metahuman wing of Iron Heights, and basically that's where we start this episode. So the premise of this episode is that Warden Wolf has been collecting these metas and selling them to Amina Black, and she's come to collect, it's basically like going to the grocery store, the shopping, the supermarket, if you want to call it that, and just pick out, I want some bananas, want some strawberries, oh, I want that dude that can run really fast as well. So she's come to the metahuman supermarket, and instead of just, wanting a couple, just one or two, she's being very greedy and she wants every single meta we have there. So we have 5 metas there that Aminet wants. And essentially that's what leads to Barry being like, well, we got to get out of here. Otherwise we're screwed, and Aminet is going to cause quite a bit of havoc with all these metahuman abilities. Now, in the synopsis for this episode, we did know Ralph was having an old friend come back, and he's literally in the episode for like 2 minutes. He's hardly in the episode. So I guess it was like the catalyst for Ralph's journey in this episode, if you want to call that, like what he was feeling in this episode. But I was expecting him to be in the episode more, because I thought it would highlight maybe more of what Ralph was like in his like bad days. So yeah, Earl Cox, I think his name was, showed up, and then that was really like the segue into Ralph learning his new ability. And of course, this new ability of Ralph's is, that he can change. He can, like, what's the best way to put it? Like, he can just change his face. Now, that's in the comics for Ralph. For the show, they changed it up a bit, because obviously he can change his skin color. I think in the comics, he could just change his, like, facial structure. I think that's what the main thing he could change. But obviously in the show, to be Warden Wolf, who is black, he had to change his skin color. So I can't remember if that's in the comics. I know I've read some stuff like with Elongated Man where he has changed his face around a bit. But he can only hold it for so long, which they did do on the show. It's not like he can just change it and just stays that way. He has to like hold it in, which is pretty difficult because he's changing a lot of different features. So it was good that they actually did replicate that in the show and not make it like really, really easy for Ralph to do. But I'm not sure in the comics if he could change like his complexion and stuff like that. If he could, let me know in the comics. I'm just not, let me know in the comments. I'm just not too sure. I knew he could change his face. I wasn't too sure about complexion and like hair and stuff like that. Now, last episode, I forgot to mention this, we did have Cecile getting those powers, and they do come in handy in this episode for, I think this was the only part she used them, and that is when we see her, I guess, or hear her reading Warden Wolf's mind and realizing that, hey, he's not doing some very good things with Barry, and that's how Team Flash knows that good old Warden Wolf is trafficking metahumans to Amina Black. So, Cecile's powers come in handy for this episode. I wonder how long they're going to last, and if it's going to be until she gives birth, or it's going to be when it's relevant to the plot that she loses them. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. Now, I guess one of the most interesting parts of this episode did involve the Thinker. I wasn't expecting as much Thinker. I was expecting some Thinker in this episode, but maybe not as much as we got. But the Thinker wasn't actually planning, or didn't expect, what Aminet and Warden Wolf were doing. And really, he couldn't do anything. He just had to wait and see how it played out. And really, when it comes to the end of the episode, which we will talk about later on in the video, it was probably the right move by the Thinker or Clifford DeVoe to do that. Just let it play out, and then, play it by ear and just see what goes on with what they're doing, and then, jump in when it's appropriate. And I think that was the correct way for the correct thing for the Thinker to do, and it pretty much worked out for him in the end. Now, one thing I loved seeing in this episode, and I thought we might have got some of it from the trailer breakdown, and I think even they mentioned it in an interview as well. We saw Smart Barry. We saw Barry, or MacGyver Barry, or MacGyver Flash, I guess, making that like chemical reaction thing with the salt or powder or whatever it was with the fluid, and creating like an acid of sorts. Smart Barry. I love seeing Smart Barry. We hardly ever see it, because what the Flash does is that they dumb down Barry in certain areas, whether it be his scientific background or even some other areas to boost up characters like Cisco, Caitlin, or Iris, which I understand why they do that. but it can be annoying if you're a big fan of Barry Allen, you're a big fan of his, like, you know, his smarts in the comics that aren't really replicated or represented that well on the show. So it was really cool to see that in this episode. But you could see throughout this episode that Clifford DeVoe was definitely having doubts on Marlise's, like, commitment to what they were doing, because, like, Marlise herself was having doubts, which in turn led to Clifford DeVoe having doubts on her. So that plays out throughout the rest of the episode. Obviously, towards the end of the episode, which we'll talk about that at the end, something else happens, which is DeVoe cheating a bit, I guess. But you can definitely tell there's something not right there, and I think it's leading down the road to Marlise probably going against Clifford DeVoe come, you know, towards the end of the season, maybe the last 3 or 4 episodes. So they're planting these little seeds there. You can just tell that Marlise is, you know, slowly losing faith in what DeVoe is doing, as well as possibly patience as well. Now, one of the funniest scenes in the episode was Ralph impersonating Warden Wolf in that bar. Once again, we saw the fact that he was really struggling to keep these, like the shape of Warden Wolf going. His ears were like drooping, and he eventually just went back to Ralph. Thought that was a funny scene, just like Ralph trying to impersonate Warden Wolf. Just wasn't Ralph's style, was it? But yeah, that was pretty funny. Now, another scene I really like in this episode was actually the scene between Barry and Becky Sharp just before they're about to get into the area where they can actually use their abilities. So it was like the last, like, non-metahuman part of the episode, if you want to call it that. And I did like that scene. It would have been cool if it led to Becky maybe helping Barry get out of jail. Obviously, he gets out another way, which we'll talk about in a second. But obviously led to another part where, you know, Barry felt that personal connection to Becky, which once again leads to something later on, which we'll talk about in a second. But, you know, if that had forked off into 2 different ways, it led to 2 situations which I'm fine with. The situation that we got and the situation we possibly could have got, where maybe Becky, like, used her abilities to help Barry get out of jail, but she actually used her abilities to stop the other bus metahumans from, you know, killing Barry while he was down, and without his abilities due to that, like, metahuman ankle bracelet thing that Warden Wolf shot at him. But that whole prison yard fight I thought was really cool. It was really tense because you weren't too sure what was going to happen there. You couldn't say, okay, everyone's going to survive. Like, you thought, okay, Barry's going to survive, but you couldn't say about everyone else. Like, everyone else there was a potential target. You could argue that they were expendable. Like, yeah, they could die right here. They could die, they could die, they could die. And I was like, okay, well, what's going to happen on here? And, well, basically everyone dies. Like, everyone died apart from Barry and Becky, essentially. And that's because good old the Thinker comes down and takes everything over. So now we have Becky as DeVoe. So DeVoe had gone into Dominic Lance. We had him for, like, what, 3 episodes, I guess, even though we hardly ever saw him. So that was his body for a bit. But now we have Becky Sharp as the body of the Thinker. So the Thinker is now female, so this is just getting crazy and crazy. I wonder if he's going to jump into another body. He's got he absorbed all the abilities and stuff, I'm assuming, of the other metahumans. I'm not too sure what he was doing there, if he was testing which body was the best to go into. If anyone wants to clarify, that's my assumption of what it was. He was testing which body was the best one to go into, or he was taking their abilities. We didn't really get a clarification on that, I don't think. My stream sort of stuffed up, so I missed some parts at the end, but I think I caught up on it for the most part. But if they did clarify that he has their abilities now, then let me know in the comments. But my assumption is that he was just testing which body to go into, and he felt that Hazard was the best one. And it does, like, go all the way back to episode 3 this season, where, and I mentioned this in a video in the past couple of days, that Clifford DeVoe said that Becky Sharp was the most useful, or would be the most useful in the future for the Thinker and his plan. So I think we're going to see the Thinker step up, and it's going to be due to Hazard and her abilities. So it's going to be interesting to see what plays out. Now, when Killer Frost and Vibe came to take Barry out and he said, I'm going to stay in prison, I was like, okay, we're going to get Barry to stay in prison. It makes sense that he would stay there. He wouldn't leave because technically he'd be a fugitive, if that makes sense. So I was like, okay, we're going to get Barry in prison for a few more episodes, which I was fine with when it came to that point in the episode. I was like, okay, sweet, we'll live with that. But I did actually predict, like, a couple of weeks ago, like, wouldn't surprise me in episode 13 or 14 if he would come out. Then rumors came out, like, a couple of days ago, maybe like 3 or 4 days ago, I think it was, that episode 16 would be the episode that he comes out of jail. So it got all confusing. But it's episode 13 that he comes out of jail because Ralph impersonates Clifford DeVoe. And the judge is like, well, he's alive. So Barry didn't commit a murder because the guy that apparently got murdered is right in front of me and alive. So I've got to prove Barry innocent, I guess, and get him out of jail. But it will be interesting to see if it comes back, like there's any proof that that isn't DeVoe and DeVoe is really dead, sorry, and then Barry goes back to... It's going to be weird to see, or interesting, might I say, to see play out in the next couple of episodes, because yeah, it just seemed to be not rushed. Like, I'm sort of happy with what happened, because a lot did happen there, especially in that last like 20 minutes. A lot went down. So hopefully it's for a reason that they rushed getting Barry out of jail, and we'll see what plays out in the episodes to come. But yeah, I wasn't expecting DeVoe to come through, to be completely honest. Yeah, pretty random. Now, in regards to DeVoe being in Becky's body again, we did see, well, Becky or DeVoe give Marlize a champagne glass with the Weeper tears in them. Where's the Weeper? Is he just like locked up in the DeVoe somewhere? Like they're just drowning him of tears. Where is he? But so it's just to keep Marlize under control. DeVoe does mention enlightenment again. Enlightenment again. Just get that word right. As I said, I think I did mention in a video maybe like a week and a half ago, that the language could be the language of the Age of Enlightenment. Hopefully that comes back up again, because DeVoe's mentioned it a couple of times. It's really what he was striving for. So you think that would be his end goal, or at least a part of his end goal. So hopefully we see more of that in the episodes to come. But in regards to episodes to come, I'm pretty sure The Flash is gone until the 27th of February. I don't think it's back until then. I think we're on like a 3-week break of The Flash. So yeah, a bit of a long wait for is it 3-week or it's like a 2-week break, but from now until the next episode, it's like 3 weeks. So I have 2 weeks where there's no episode of The Flash, and then it'll come back, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's gone for a bit. I thought it was only gone for 1 week, but it's apparently gone for 2 weeks. So bit of a wait, but at least we're left on a bit of a cliffhanger, and a pretty good cliffhanger, and at least Barry's out of jail now. It'd be weird if maybe he got out in episode 14, and then we had to end here, wait 2 weeks, get another episode, and then he's out of jail, and they have to finish off his storyline there in regards to his jail one or prison one. It'd be a bit weird, so maybe it was right to end it here. But yeah, so Flash is gone for a bit. I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong in that, let me know in the comments. But I'm pretty sure I'm right. But overall, I thought this episode was really good. You know, seeing it's going into a 2 or 3 week break, I thought it was a good episode to head into that break. I think like the last 20 minutes was much more interesting than maybe the first half of the episode. But yeah, a lot happened in that last half of the episode, which was really entertaining and a bit unexpected at the same time. But I think they needed to get that done, because there's a lot more they have to do in this season, like introducing the Thinker. There's other storylines that have to wrap up and stuff. So I think it was the right time to end that storyline. I'm interested to see where they go. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait to watch it again. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below what was your favourite part of the episode. What didn't you like too much? Just leave all your opinions down there. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.